Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back in Mnek Studios. Today we're gonna talk about third remake. The track we're gonna talk about today is Corry and Mnek, Head and Heart. An outstanding track for the genre. It has like 500 million plays on Spotify, and it defines a genre that today is going really strong. So let's see how I work on that and how I made the bass, how I made the drums, and all the other stuff I always do. Let's dive into the project. Overall, the track sounds like this. The main part I've focused on is, of course, the bass line, because besides the vocal, we have a very powerful bass line that covers a lot of harmonics. So I tried to copy that harmonics, just feeling what's in the track. So I started with a simple kick. It's pretty punchy. And it's a kick that you can find pretty much everywhere because it has a short attack and it has always a punch that stands out. Then I focused on the main bass line, which has been this bass here, in which I used for it a serum. It's pretty much a basic shapes with an envelope that it's making a bit of release, so the bass is not stopping every time you go out of the MIDI part. And processed with the R-bass mono and a little bit of EQ and a different sidechain compared to the sidechain we will see after this. So we have a pretty much longer sidechain that covers all the punch of the kick. Then I started making layers, and I just didn't know what to do at first, so I tried with a lot of stuff. At first I just had this percussion, which is actually a bass shot from Vengeance that covers only these kind of frequencies and has pretty much the same sidechain, which sounds like this. Just a percussion to have a little bit of attack, and you, with both bass, you have this sound. It's really nice as a sub bass. Then I started play with all the serums I had in my bank, so I just find out that there are a lot of basses that are really good, even if you don't want to create it from scratch. So for this one, I used an organ bass. I don't remember which bank is, but I think it's called bass. I don't know where I've taken it, but it's really easy to do, and it sounds like this. And as you can see, it has a different melody from the main bass because it has to cover the higher frequencies, while the main bass, the sub bass, has to cover the lower frequencies. So the harmonics are a little bit different, and you have both of the basses sounding like this. And you're starting feeling some harmonics here and there, but you need some extra layering on the mid bass part. And you just want to add this organ bass that is pretty much the same, but is one octave lower. So, sorry, one octave higher, sorry. And this is the lower. And if you see in the spectrum, you can see you're going up with the harmonics, so you can cover all the main part of the bass like this. You start feeling really good. Then I grouped it just because I'm more comfortable with groups, as you may know. Processed with no bass almost at all, around here, around 100 frequencies, and then a little bit of Kramer tape stereo, which is one of my favorite distorter, and it's sounding really nice, really vintage vibe, and it's adding a little bit of compression. Then the last two layers of the bass, which are the less but not the less important, are this one made with Serum, and it's called a slap bass. Basically, we have these two waves here, and I played around with the release and the decay of this sound. Then we have another envelope here to control the filter. So if you just erase the envelope, you pretty much don't have the right vibe, the right punchiness to the kick, to the bass. Then I just moved the envelope here, dragged it here on the cutoff, and now it's sounding really punchy. Now we have a little bit of compression with a multiband, a little bit of filter, in which I added the same envelope to control it. So with the cutoff, you have the same movement as the filter has. And then the last layer is this bass here. That I just had I didn't know if I had to add something, because at first it seems like it was full to me. But then I realized that I missed some higher frequencies on the harmonics, so I put this Serum here. There is another preset I found. It's called Organic Matter, which consists in these two waves, and these waves in particular has +7 semitones, which means that it's playing on 7 semitones higher. So you can go up with the harmonics, you can go finding a little bit of space, more space into the spectrum. Then I've grouped these two, and I've put some delay and some reverb, which I made in this case with the Ableton delay and with a Valhalla Room, just to make space, because I've noticed that in the original, besides of the vocal, there's nothing more playing. So if you have the right vocal, you can fill all the space you need, but if you don't have it, you can feel the track as empty while it's not. So I put these two delays. You can hear this here. Really, really smooth. Then I've just added a Pro Q just to cut some more frequencies. And then the overall basis with the kick sounded like this. Like this. So now we have a very, very full bass line that it can carry on the track alone. So the total bass line sounds like this. And now it's really, really nice. Then the next part I take care of is the drum section, which is, as you may know, one of my favorite parts to work on. And I just try to have some equal samples to the tracks. So I just looked for in my banks, in my sample banks, and I found out this hi-hat first. It's really long, and it's really giving the vibe to the kick and bass, as you can see. Then I've added a clap, but this clap was not enough, so I've layered it with another clap, which was a pre-shift clap, just to have a little bit of anticipation of the clap. Now they together sound like this. And I've added my transient with this little particular here. and a crash, a very housey crash. Then I've added some shakers here. As you can see, I've panned one on the left and one on the right, and then I played with the delay. And on both, I've added a tape machine from T-Rex, which is doing the major part of the work on distortion to have more vintage drums. And as you may see, I've cut pretty much all the lows from everywhere because I don't want the lows to impact on nothing but the bass line. Then for the second part of the track, I've heard a lot the tracks to remake it, and I noticed that besides the piano, we had more drums, we had more things going on, we had a little bit of plucky synths in the background, in the very background. So I tried to replicate them together, starting with adding the drums that I've missed on the first part. For example, I've added this shaker here. I found it perfect to stand out in the overall drums, as you can hear. Then I've added another hi-hat. This time it was a closed hi-hat, just to give a bit of rhythm that I was missing in the first part, because the first part is covered by the vocal and you can't feel exactly what's missing. But now that we don't have the vocal, we can feel that something is not going right, and we just needed to get the groove a little bit better. And I did it with this hi-hat, which is making the work of a ride. Then I added this snare, which is a little bit off tempo here. Every time the beat goes off a quarter, so the snare is making this noise here. And overall you can see it here. Okay, so the snare, it's basically treated like a fill. And then I've added finally the piano, which is sounding like this. And then the plucky synth I've talked about before. For the piano, I've used my favorite piano, the M1 Velo piano, which you can find in the browser very easily. And I've processed with, here it is, and I processed without the master effects, so I erased that from the M1, and I've processed it with the Pro Q to enhance some frequencies at the high part, a compressor here from Waves, the C6, with the preset, which is called Piano B, that's working a lot for me. Then another EQ just to cut another frequency here, which was out because of the compression. Then I've added a vintage verb and a vintage delay, both from Valhalla. Then I've EQ'd again, just because every time you add a plugin, you recover some frequencies and it can be a little bit annoying. Then a kickstart, just to have a little bit of sidechain. In this track we have a very, very soft sidechain. For example, here we have 40% in the bass. Beside of the sub, we are always at 50%, 40%. So the sidechain is not really heavy, and this is helping the overall track. And then, just to finish, I've added some OTT. And you can see the difference with and without the OTT. I leave the depth at 31%, a little bit less gain. And I play with the high part because in the original track, the piano is really, really high in the high frequencies. So I rather have a big piano playing like this. Otherwise, I can't feel the hikes. And then for the pluck, which is covering the background part of the track. I've used again a serum. I've looked for a plug in my banks and I found this, which is really easy to make because these are two basic shapes, both at 11 voices, while one shape is a little bit detuned and +1 octave. You have the other one pretty much basic. Then I've added some LFO to the cutoff on the filter, so it's going really smooth. As you can see, if I just leave the cutoff, and I also can play with the automation if I want the track to go to a better progression. And that's it. Basically, you have a full second part of the drop, which is sounding like this. And as you can see, if I erase the plug, you don't have the same depth in the track. So let's see. It's very little, it's very smooth, but this is what is making the difference. For instance, if I want to do an automation with a cutoff, which I actually did, you can see it increase its volume basically. And you can move very good along the drop and you can go directly into the break, just adding this little bit of effects. And that's it, guys. This was the remake of Head and Heart by Corry. So if you have some questions, just drop down there in the comment. I would like to help as much as I can. And see you next week for another big remake. Ciao!